If you're not paying attention to artificial intelligence, that thing known as AI, well, I don't know what you're doing at this point because it's all over the place. But guess what? I had to ask ChatGPT one thing, and that is what are the top five Money in the Bank undercard matches? Well, I'm going to give you the list and I'm going to give my reactions coming up on this episode of Break It Down with Brian H.
No, baby, that's for somebody else. We're just going to keep you right where you're at right now.
It doesn't matter what you think.
The Wrestling Realm presents Break It Down with Brian H.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this episode of Break It Down with Brian H. I'm your host, Brian H. Waters. This show is brought to you by The Wrestling Realm. Just want to get you started, let you know that it is time for the NBA Finals. Jersey. And if you know, you can go ahead and purchase your tickets at a discounted rate. Yes, by using the code Wrestling Realm on SeatGeek. Well, maybe you're not into the finals. Maybe you're not into basketball. Guess what? The Stanley Cup is covered. Because we know it's hockey season as that get ready comes to a close. So if you want to go and see the most gorgeous trophy in sports, you could do that by saving $20 on $50 or more on SeatGeek. That goes for concerts, wrestling events, and more. Hell, Money in the Bank's this weekend. Go to Money in the Bank, save some money. Folks, I was sitting there and I was thinking, we got Money in the Bank coming up. Now, you may know, the real Dwayne Allen and I, years ago, we did our top 5 Money in the Bank winners. And obviously that's changed. I believe we did this in 2021, somewhere around that time, maybe. But nonetheless, I know, it was like season 5, whatever, right? But now, I wanted to do something. I said, well, what about the undercard matches, right? We talk about like the events like the Royal Rumble, and we always talk about the non-Royal Rumble matches, summer classics. Well, now we got to put Money in the Bank in that same category. Money in the Bank is something that started off as just a match that took place at WrestleMania. Well, since then it has evolved into its own PLE. One time there was, we got used to 2 Money in the Bank matches. At one point in time, there was a Money in the Bank match for the world title and one for the WWE Championship. That's when Raw and SmackDown were completely separate. Now you have 2. One for the men, one for the women, and you still mix up the Raw and SmackDown contestants. But over the course of time, there have been some bangers. Now, I said, you know what? I wanted to know, what is ChatGPT going to say about this? So, let's get started. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. Number 5 is a huge surprise. Number 5 is Rhea Ripley versus Natalya for the Raw Women's Championship, taking place at Money in the Bank 2023. Now, if you remember, this was a time when Rhea had just defeated Charlotte at WrestleMania 39, the greatest WrestleMania ever, and they had an epic match. Some even say match of the night when it was the semi-main event for night 1. This led us into the dominance of Rhea Ripley. Going into this match, nobody thought Natalya had a chance, but what they talk about, and I have to agree, this was, while it was short, it was sweet because it showed Rhea's dominance, but Natalya did give a fight, and it was a lot of hard-hitting action. So I probably wouldn't have put this on my list, but ChatGPT did. So, number 4, we're going all the way back to 2021. This is one of those title reigns that helped solidify the tribal chief, and that is Roman Reigns taking on Edge at Money in the Bank 2021. Now, this is the match we should have got at WrestleMania. Daniel Bryan even said he didn't think he belonged in that match, but the powers that be thought so. And because of that, we got a triple threat match. Well, guess what? This feud had a lot of heat on it, And Edge and Roman had a epic matchup. This is um um yeah, the fans are back. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, because I believe the fans, they came back for WrestleMania, but maybe they wasn't. But yeah, I believe they was back. And but nonetheless, I've been very critical of a lot of Edge's matches. I've been very critical of his run. Anybody knows, like, I was a huge Edge fan back in the day, and sometimes I'm like, well, is it because that's who was there or what? Not really a big fan of him returning. However, this was one of those few matches that I think this run of 2021 Edge, because then after it was, 2021, he goes into the feud with Seth Rollins, which was decent. But I think this run was good, and this match was great. Obviously, this led us to a returning John Cena that night, which we remember we finally got the real Roman Reigns versus the real John Cena match, not the one from years ago when Roman was stuttering. But this was one of those matches that was a notch on the Tribal Chief's belt, as we was in the infancy of what would become his 1,316-day championship reign. Number 3. Oh, this was one of my favorite matches. I still to this day remember watching it, and this being the Street Profits versus the Usos. I remember just being on the edge of my seat, and I guess I got to get a year too. This is from Money in the Bank 2022. This was peak Usos going against a main roster peak Street Profits team before this current run. This is before, you didn't know who was going to win. Sure, the Usos was on their dominant run, which, they would go all the way to the next year's WrestleMania. But this was a night where he's like, wait a minute. Usos, the Street Profits, they might win this title. And when I say the Usos are the greatest tag team ever, this is one of those matches that I'm showing people. And, and they ran it back a couple times. It didn't hit the same way this one did. And I think a big shock was just also the performance of Angelo Dawkins. Like, Angelo Dawkins can go in the ring, but it just felt like he was on a million that night. And then for all the Montez Ford fans, this was one of those nights where it's like, see, we told you so. This is why this is our guy. So who would have thought that on this night, Jey Uso would have been world champion? Well, probably now, because he kind of came out of the whole thing with Roman. I think that program with Roman, you said, all right, maybe he could win a title one day. But this right here, definitely on the list, coming in at number 3. Number 2, we going to 2016. And this is AJ Styles versus John Cena. This is a match that 5 years before, 10 years before, we never thought we would see. You got the ultimate TNA guy. You got the ultimate WWE guy. And now they are squaring off in a match. And I love what they put on the thing. A dream match finally realized. Because that's exactly what this was. This was a dream match for so many people. How many people would download a version of AJ Styles on their video game just so they could have him beat up John Cena? How many people would download a version of AJ Styles on the WWE game just to have him in the same ring, the same universe with John Cena? And that's what we got at Money in the Bank 2016. And was this 2016? I think I said it right. Yeah. Money in the Bank 2016. And just overall, this made John Cena go to another level, making him, show us that, hey, he can wrestle. He can wrestle in a different style, no pun intended. So overall, this is it's a reason why this is number 2. And if somebody had it number 1 on their list, I would listen to the conversation. I would definitely listen to the conversation because it was just an incredible match. But the number 1 match in Money in the Bank history that was not for the briefcase, that was not the multi-person ladder match, I think we all know what it's going to be. And that is Money in the Bank 2011, so much on the line, the WWE Championship match, in Chicago at the Allstate Arena, CM Punk challenging John Cena. Now, what made this match so good is, as we're in the early days, literally season 1 of the Wrestling Realm, is because you did not know who was going to win. And for a few times, WWE, no reports leaked. CM Punk's contract was legitimately up. He did a pipe bomb. He was frustrated, ready to leave, needed change, didn't feel like he was going to get that change. So going into this match, the story is John Cena must win because he's got to save the WWE. John Cena must win this match. Vince McMahon pretty much challenged him, like, you better win or else. Well, I believe it was about 45 minutes, and the two put on an absolute classic. You talk about times where matches build up and they don't deliver, but the build-up was so great. No, that's not the case for this one. This is the case where the match, the build-up to it felt forever. It felt like we was going to never get the Money in the Bank. And then when we got there that so great night in July 2011, shout out to my late Uncle Mike. Remember watching this with him. We just sat there, and I remember him, my cousin Mike, shout out to Hypno Beats, the creator of the theme music. We were all on the edge of the couch. And when CM Punk hit the 3 count after the GTS, mind you, Vince McMahon is interfering, trying to prevent this because he doesn't want his title gone. CM Punk wins the match. Michael Cole's epic call. Oh my gosh. And it made you feel like the company was in trouble. That's how good of a call it was. So after that, Punk runs. Vince gets on the headset. Punk is celebrating. Vince gets on the headset, calls Del Rio out, who had just won the Money in the Bank briefcase for the WWE Championship. He orders him to cash in. Nope. Punk kicks him. He gets out of there. And this is still regarded as the greatest WWE Money in the Bank undercard or, non-ladder match. It was the main event, obviously. It was Chicago. CM Punk wins. And that was the summer of Punk. And just overall, just an incredible night. So, y'all got the list. I'm interested to know what's your list. What do you think is the top 5 undercard matches from Money in the Bank? Ladies and gentlemen, that'll do it. Make sure you check out the Wrestling Realm Now podcast this Wednesday night as we have a preview for WWE Money in the Bank. Make sure you check me out on Breaking Through Glass Ceilings over on 6HM Production. Until the next time, folks, so long, everybody.